Ladies and gentlemen, we just had some big news just hit the chess world. Gukesh, the youngest world champion in history, took down Magnus Carlsen. Very big news for the chess world. And Magnus, even before their game in the tournament that's going on right now, the Norway Chess, even tweeted that, he basically said, bring it on, Gukesh. We'll see what happens. So this is a very exciting game. I'm very excited to share with you all, and I have a nice shirt on because it's a very important game because the world champion took down Magnus. So very excited. Hope you all enjoy. It's just gonna be the one game today, but hope you all enjoy. Here we go. Okay, guys. So here we go. Gukesh playing with white pieces. Magnus is playing with the black pieces. This is round number. What was this? I don't know. I don't know what the round is, but anyway, here we go. Again, if you don't know how this works, they are classical games to start out with, the main games. If the game is drawn between the two players, they go to Armageddon, which is like a rapid portion, and they bid for black. So if you were the player playing with black in an Armageddon game, you just need a draw to win. And that's one reason why Armageddon games are becoming more popular, because it keeps the game more interesting. And it is just a unique variant of the game, besides just the long games where it's it adds a new realm and field to the whole playing the whole atmosphere. Anyway, Gukesh is playing with the white pieces. He starts the game with e4. We saw him play a lot of e4 during the World Championship against Ding Liren back in November. But we have e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and he goes for Ruy Lopez. And actually, Magnus, instead of going for a6, which is the Morphy defense, which is actually the most popular variation, which I believe is the most popular variation in this position, he actually goes for knight to f6, which is the Berlin defense. This is actually what you want to do if you are kind of trying to kill the game. So instead of trading the knight and maybe playing knight to c3 or something, Gukesh instead goes d3, and he said, no, Magnus, I'm not going to kill the game here, and you're not going to make me. Bishop to c5 is played by Magnus, and now c3, castles, and now d6, so Magnus is trying to get out the light square bishop. h3 to prevent anything happening, any pins or whatnot happening on the g4 square. And now Magnus kicks out the bishop goes to a4, and I remember I was so excited watching this game because I had no idea. I was watching the live coverage of it on Twitch, and it was just such a fun game to watch. Even before I knew the end of it, it was just such a fun game to watch, because these two players possibly could be the most popular chess players at this time right now. Magnus, of course, has been around forever, and he's always, that's when you think of chess, you think of Magnus, right? But Gukesh he's a new player, but he's the world champion now. He's the youngest world champion ever, and he has this aura about him that just you kind of, I don't know. I feel like these two guys are just really, I can't think of what to say, but anyway, I feel like both of them are very popular right now. Anyway, rook to e1 is played by Gukesh, who right now is probably setting up the move d4, which could be very good, taking some space, kicking the bishop out, and things like that. So b5, Magnus takes some time to think, and now bishop back to c2 because black was, of course, attacking the bishop. Bishop goes to b6, and Magnus reroutes the knight. And one thing you have to keep in mind is Magnus has been around for a little bit, and for a minute or two. And the thing that y'all have to remember is he's playing some really young players. Gukesh just, at the time of this game, or maybe like one of the last days of May, was his birthday, his 19th birthday, turned 19. Okay, and so he's a young player. And one thing that Magnus and all the dare I say older players are kind of thinking about is these younger players, they don't like the long slow things, and that's kind of what Magnus is trying to do. He's just playing solid. He's trying to go. He might be even trying to employ some slower esque play, because that, for some players, not necessarily Gukesh. I'm not pointing fingers at Gukesh, but for some players, for younger players especially, it can kind of get them, dare I say, bored? I don't know. Maybe not bored, but they don't like the short games. They don't. I mean, not short games. They don't like slow. They don't like slow games. At least for some people. Gukesh might be a different story, but for a lot of younger people, let's say 25 and below, most of those people don't like these. Sit for an hour and then move your king to h8. You don't like that. They don't like people who think for hours and make a seemingly meaningless move. So that's just the impression I get, is Magnus is trying to maybe employ that. But Gukesh is he's number 3 in the world, so he's doing a few things right. You can say that he's doing a few things right. Anyway, knight d4. So Gukesh goes ahead with his plan, and instead of taking, Magnus goes knight to g6. So, I mean, if you look at this, he's actually, Magnus is kind of employing a few scary things. He could actually, in the future, sack the bishop on h3, and then he could get the knights in there, and it could actually be kind of scary. Not necessarily long-term, maybe, but, he could do some pretty scary things. And if he can get the knight off the f6 square, he can get the queen in there, it could be potentially pretty dangerous for Gukesh. Gukesh thinks for like a minute and plays knight to f1, c5 now, and instead of taking over there, he goes g3, knight to g3, which is actually a very good move. Instead of taking the pawn, which is for some people would be automatic maybe, he instead goes for the protection of the king, which is what you need sometimes. Now Magnus takes on d4, we have c takes, and now pawn takes on a4, and bishop takes, and now bishop to b7, d5, and the center kind of closes down, and now you kind of actually can look at this, and I mean the center pawns aren't going to move for a while. There are 2 flank pawns over there, I guess, that can kind of just cancel each other out. We have a5 and b2, and then these ones over here we have f2, g2, and h3, and then f7, g7, and h6. Those ones are probably not going to move. So I mean, this could very well not not for sure, but it could, by looking at this, it could very well end in a draw. But of course, Gukesh doesn't like draws. He doesn't like settling for a draw. We have b3 now, and the reason for that is now you are protecting that pawn right there on b3 with both the queen and the rook. And now the knight gets into f4, bishop c6, rook to b4, queen c2, and actually when I was watching the analysis of the game, this move queen c2 was, I think, given like a mistake or like an inaccuracy maybe, because it kind of just relinquishes defense of that side, I think. And now we have king to h1, and this move was even, I think this move was even worse. This might have been like a mistake or something. I don't think it was a blunder, but it might have been a mistake. Queen to a2. And the point is, after bishop to d3, which is what Magnus played, we have knight to d2. And yeah, bishop to d3 is intending to take that pawn, which if Gukesh wasn't able to play knight to d2, that pawn would have been taken. And if it would have been taken, it would have been very bad. But he does have the move knight to d2, which saves it for the moment. But now we have h5, Magnus coming up the board, kind of steamrolling the knight there. Queen takes, we have a queen trade. And now we're down to knights, bishops, and rooks. Now h4 is on the board. But instead of moving the knight, Gukesh finds a very nice move, rook to a4. And the point of the rook to a4 is very nice idea. The point is, if you take here and you take, okay, this pawn move, taking back the pawn that captured the knight, it attacks the knight, and if the knight moves, that knight used to be guarding the bishop. So it's a very, very, very nice move by, very nice idea by Gukesh. But Magnus sees that, of course, and so he plays rook to b8, just enforcing that rook. Now rook goes back to a2. The king goes to g7, and Magnus is almost kind of like playing now. He's just, moving the king, so Gukesh has to make a move. Gukesh goes rook to a7, gets in with the rook there, but now we have rook to d4. Magnus gets in the center. Knight to f3 attacking. Now we have the pawn takes knight, right there. Here, Magnus sacrifices, because it's the same idea. Sacrifices king to g3. And now bishop takes e4, pinning the knight, and now they're equal in material again. King to h2, rook to d1, and now we have bishop takes d5, bishop takes, knight takes. We rotate the rook, and now we have some things we can do for white. White can go to, rook to c7, maybe, hustle down there and attack the king, the black king. Some pretty nice ideas, but generally I would say in this position black has more fun than white, I would say, because black has the two connected passed pawns in the center. King to f6 now. h4 kind of just restrict. This is a very nice idea as well, nice move, just restricting the black king. Now king to e6. Knight to g5 check, king d5. And now we have some checks here that Gukesh plays. And now he plays here f6, rook to f3 check, king e2, now rook to a2 check. We have a block, we take, now we give another check, king to g3, protecting the rook, d5, knight takes, now you're attacking the other pawn, but the knight is attacking, the knight is defending. Now we have knight to, rook to f8, rook to f2 check, king e1, knight to d7, and it's at this point that things went a very interesting route, and they went very interesting very quickly. It started with this move, knight to e2. Now the move knight to e2 is actually given a blunder by the computer for black, although I can see why, it kind of makes sense, because after the trade here, black has two connected passed pawns in center. But what this is, this is such a high level move by, this is the way Gukesh played this is nothing short of spectacular. We trade the pieces here. Trade the pieces. Now we have knight to e6. Okay, this is just amazing. Knight to c5. The knight goes backwards to attack the pawns. King to e3. And now knight to a4. And the point is, the knight, if this pawn ever pushes, you have knight to b2, right? Oh, man. So clutch here by Gukesh. Alright. Knight to a4, e4 now. Now h5, g takes. Now king to d2, and knight to b2 again, okay? e3, and now knight to c4 check, king e2, and in this position, after the move king to f4, Magnus Carlsen resigns against Gukesh, and you got to watch the recap on YouTube or whatever, but the reaction that Magnus makes from this end game is quite priceless. But I mean, just Gukesh showed up here. It was like, no, Magnus, you're not gonna talk down to me. You're not talking smack to me. He showed up, played amazing game, and definitely deserves to win this game. Very nice game for him. I believe it's one of the first wins against Magnus as world champion. So congrats, Gukesh. Very nice game. Thank you all so much for watching the video. Hope you all enjoyed this very nice game by Gukesh against Magnus. Just want to keep it quick and short. So yes, again, thank you all for watching. Make sure to check out the other videos on my channel, and you can find all kinds of chess content there. You can subscribe right here. Check out the video over here. YouTube thinks you'll like this one. I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you all for watching.